Hey all, welcome to ShareTreck. It's the 9th of May 2022. Welcome to our CRISPR daily update. I hope you guys had a great weekend. I sure did. It's nice and warm here. Slowly the temperatures are picking up. Went out for a walk with the dogs and went out for a nice meal at a restaurant. So everything is looking good. However, same can't be said for the market. The market is looking very dreary. I just saw the indices and other indicators before coming in for this video. It's not looking good, but hold on to your confidence and willpower or whatever you may to persist over this market, because these difficult conditions won't last for too long. With that said, let's get started with our daily update. And here are the headlines that I have curated for you. The first one is Palantir reports disappoint, and as a result, the stocks plunged. Palantir has always had a bit of a problem, even though it has got a fantastic platform and really strong clients and more in-house selling possibilities. There is a lot of equity dilution out there. And at this point of time, the report from Palantir does not do any good to the sentiment of the market. So there is a bearish push from there. However, Adaptimmune Therapeutics earnings revenue bet Q1, they just announced it before market open somewhere around 8 o'clock in the morning. So that's quite positive for the genomic sector. On the Russia-Ukraine front, the conflict still continues. There was a Victory Day celebration, and there was no clues from Vladimir Putin's speech. Many experts were expecting that he might declare victory and close this misadventure, but no such thing happened. So the conflict is still continuing. Along with that, we do have lockdowns in China and a crackdown on zero COVID policy. The combination of these two is creating emerging food inflation. And this food inflation, experts fear, could generate social unrest in Southeast Asia because the lifestyle in Southeast Asia is very different. And more of the consumer spending is on foods and essentials, as a result of which food inflation is not going to be taken kindly. There won't be much tolerance among the population. So that's the thinking process behind this prediction. And we need to get food inflation under control. And part of that could happen through genomics with much more intensive crops, genetically engineered crops with bigger yields, in smaller footprint and so on. But that's the near term thing, like maybe 3 or 4 years down the line. But right now we have a problem. And this problem is not going to be limited to Southeast Asia. We're already feeling that along the supermarket shelves. Whenever you go and have a look at food prices, grains are going up, commodities are going up. So it's not like we are unhurt by it. So it's hitting Canada. Our inflation has also gone up here. It's hitting US. It's at all-time high. So this is something that should force us to resolve this Russia-Ukraine conflict as soon as possible. Because if Russia-Ukraine conflict is not controlled, we have other theaters which could open up. North Korea is testing the opportunities to escalate its nuclear capabilities and ambitions when the world community is preoccupied with Russia and Ukraine. Other conflict theaters can open with the confidence that the world would not have a bandwidth to control all of them. So we need to contain this Russia-Ukraine crisis quickly. The other things that are happening is China is looking at dominating the East, and there are some conflicts going on in Solomon Island with the ruler of Solomon Island, the elected government. I think it's a president. He signed an agreement with China for security cooperation, but he has not disclosed what is in the agreement to the parliament out there. Australia is also very unhappy with it. The Quad nations are a bit concerned about it. So those kind of things are brewing. We don't talk about that much in North America. Out here, our focus is more on the inflation numbers and stuff like that. But there are geopolitical fractures which are kind of trying to expand in an opportunistic manner while the world is preoccupied with Russia and Ukraine. So it's very, very important, not only for the market, but for global peace, for us to contain this Russia-Ukraine conflict very soon. Given the fact that all these risk factors are out there, and also Fed is on an interest rate binge in order to control the inflation, outlook continues to remain bearish. Even though oil price is dropping, it's still at a very high level. It's not yet conducive for reducing the inflation. However, there is a feeling that when the CPI numbers come out on Wednesday, we would be seeing some reduction in prices, indicating that the 50 basis point hike and other measures, balance sheet tightening measures by the Federal Reserve, is going to show some effect out there. Also, supply chains have eased slightly, but potential of lockdown continues to make it very less likely that we may see significant relief in inflation numbers due to supply chain relaxation. With that said, let's go and have a look at Nasdaq and our other indices. Okay, let me start off with Nasdaq futures. Nasdaq futures are looking very bleak. They are down more than 2%. That's around 258 basis points. So this is not looking good for Nasdaq today. And if I was to go and look at our indicators and start with oil, oil has definitely dropped, but it still has got support at 107.52, and MACD is still bullish even though momentum is falling. So the quantum of fall in oil doesn't seem to be sufficient to make much of a dent into inflation as such. So I do not see much support coming from oil today for the market. We also have strong support from 9-day and the 20-day exponential moving average. For oil to fall below $100, there are a lot of hurdles. There's a lot of strength in the oil market. So this is not helping us today. So we are continuing in our bearish outlook at this point of time. Now let's look at the 10-year yields. 10-year yields are dropping marginally, but still they are at very high levels, above 3.05%. So unless we have further drops, we are not going to see much of a bullish impact. So the market continues to be bearish. For any meaningful drop for the yields, there is a lot of supports out here. So it's going to be a difficult path downwards. Even if you look at the 2-year yield, it's falling. It has fallen below the 9-day exponential moving average, which is a positive thing. But if I was to draw a line out here, you can see that we have been in this range for quite a while, and we have a support at around 2.60. So it's not very encouraging. What is encouraging, however, is the fact that the MACD is bearish and moving away from the signal line, and momentum is dropping sharply. If we see further drops in yields today, and if we go to a level where we were before last week, then we should expect some kind of a bullish support from the yields, US Treasury yields for the market. Otherwise, we are still going to be on the risk of environment, because there's also extreme fear in the market. Now, if I was to go to the US dollar index, this index indicates whether funds are flowing into US dollars. And what I see here today indicates that the funds are definitely flowing into US dollars. This candle out here is today's candle for 9th of May. We started above yesterday's close, and we went all the way up and came down, and still we are above yesterday's close. So the candle is still green. There are 3 straight green candles, which shows a lot of bullish strength out there. Because funds are all going into US dollars. US dollar is becoming stronger, and the money is coming out of the stock market as well as from gold and other areas. That's the reason why we are, I would say that US dollar index being strong is bearish for Nasdaq. Now, if I was to look at S&P 500, S&P 500 still doesn't have a candle for today, but the S&P 500 S&P 500 pre-market shows a drop of 1.47%. And if I was to go into QQQ, which is the Nasdaq, we don't have a candle for today, even in the live Nasdaq, but pre-market we are at 303.15, which is $6 less than where we closed last week, and that is 1.97% drop indicated in the pre-market action. So overall, everything is looking terrible. If I go to VIX, this is live VIX, and we have the candle for today where we started just above yesterday's close, and we went on to surge and pierced the resistance at 33.77 and were pushed back. MACD is still bullish and moving away from the signal line. Momentum is also picking up sharply. That probably indicates that we are going to break the volatility of resistance of 33.77 and surge upward during the day. And this is not good for Nasdaq. So overall, everything is looking bearish. That's what my verdict is for today. So let's look at our Genomic shares. I have sorted them according to the winners on the top. Let me do that again because the market is moving very quickly. As you can see, things are changing. The volatility is very high. Beam is just in the cusp of turning positive. But overall, as I said before, the market is in a bearish mood. Let us look at IDNA, which is our basic indicator. And if I look at IDNA, we are still, I'm going to draw a trend line out here, connecting the lower spots. So let us go here. So we have 2 touch points here in this line. So this is a line of resistance which has not yet been confirmed because there are only 2 touch points. We also have another line developing which is in a slightly lower slope, and that's going to be out here. And we have 3 touch points out here. If you can see, we have 3 touch points out here, and right now we are struggling at that support. So if this support gives way, then the drop is going to be further steep. And I'll have to draw more lines out here to come up with more supports. I'm going to do that in a short while. But if you look at the MACD is absolutely bearish and it's moving away from the signal line. I'm just trying to increase the size of everything so that you can see what exactly is happening. You can see a clearer picture. You see the gap between the MACD and the signal line, it's increasing. The momentum is also falling. It's going to fall below 30%. So things are not looking great for IDNA. And IDNA is an ETF that shows the genomic sector action. So everything is looking bearish out there. A drop of 1.21%, that's around 35 basis points on IDNA. And if I was to look at the leading winners out here, the big one is Beam, but Beam has still a long way to go before coming to anywhere close to last week's open price. So we are still under last week's candle, which was the last session's candle. So it's not showing much strength either. And also momentum is below average, so that's nothing great or sustainable. If it was above average, we could have probably hoped that there's a probability for the MACD to stay bullish. That's not the case there. And DNA is again positive, but it is well within yesterday's open, and it's well within yesterday's, when I say yesterday, I mean Friday's candle. MACD is also bearish and momentum is also below average. So the greens out there don't seem very durable, at least at this point of time. And given all the news items that you saw, the overall risks the way they are, and the inflation and the labor market being the way it is, it's very, very difficult for the market to turn green, except for the fact that there might be a false start where people believe that after a steep drop on Friday, we have reached capitulation and that sellers are exhausted. And that kind of optimism may make some people to buy, assuming that they are bottom fishing. But that's likely to be turned into a sea of red over a period of time. So I think we are still not out of the woods. Just stay and watch the market. In my opinion, it's not worth doing any purchases at this stage because we have still ways to go before we reach the bottom. With that said, let's look at the biggest loser today. I'm going to just change the sort order and go to the very bottom. Illumina is the biggest loser today, and you can see that we dropped below yesterday's close significantly, and we have a doji candle here right now, a moment of indecision on where to go, with the wicks on both sides being equal, with the MACD being absolutely bearish and moving away from the signal line. The bias is more towards falling. However, they had a positive earning, and I must make one more correction out here. In my Q1 earnings report, I had a mistake in the initial chart in which I was showing the expectations versus actual for EPS as well as revenue. For Illumina, I had by mistake put it the other way around, so I apologize for that mistake. But having come out with good earnings as well as revenue, still Illumina is having a tough time in the market today, so that can show you the level of pessimism in the market. In fact, Illumina is at the very bottom of the pack right now. And if you see, Friday was no bed of roses either. Even after the earnings that came out on Thursday, Friday saw a huge drop, and we are seeing further more drops. And the reason why this is happening is because we are in a risk off environment, and all those high flying stocks which did not have earnings, which are not dividend paying, and which are working on emerging technologies where risk is very high, are the ones which are losing the battle out here. So if I, as an investor, had a lot of money and have a very long-term view of 3 to 5 years, I would definitely start picking up some shares at this stage. But believe me, there is going to be more down days to come. And going forward in the quarter, it's not going to be all the way down steadily, but there'll be a little bit of up and down, up and down. Basically, we'll start consolidating downwards before consolidating upwards, and then starting a bull run. So that is what is in store for us in the next quarter, in my opinion. And I would like you to consider that as well, and do your own research before investing in this market. It's very volatile, and we are likely to get hurt if we invest. It's the term catching a falling knife, which is used to describe these kind of situation. So when you try to catch a falling knife, your fingers get cut because the knife is coming down at a momentum and the edges are sharp. The same way, if you start dollar cost averaging here, you may have some benefits, but please believe me that you may have subsequent days of falling prices. So you may buy, let us say, Teladoc for 32.84, believing this is the bottom. But I wouldn't be surprised if it went down to $30 in a couple of sessions. So that kind of movement is possible. So be careful. And with that, I would like to bring my presentation to an end. I'm going to keep this short, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. Bye for now. Thanks for watching my video and visiting this channel. Please consider subscribing and help us grow this channel for everything related to CRISPR, stock market, and in-depth end of the week videos. Thanks and have a great day. Bye for now.